Welcome back, geeks, and today we're going to continue on the list of my top 10 favorite PS1 games. Today we're gonna go 7, 6, and 5. What do they hold? Oh, I don't know. Just kidding, I do, you don't. Alright, so number 7 coming in at Tomb Raider 2. Yes, that's right, Tomb Raider 2. So this game was just so much fun playing it as a kid. One, I love the Tomb Raider movies. I know. But Angelina Jolie as Lara Croft is fucking badass. So I really liked Tomb Raider 1 as a kid, but Tomb Raider 2 is when it really picked up. That's when we got meat on those bones. That's when we got different weapons, so like the shotgun, we had the power weapons. You still got the iconic dual pistols, and I do believe this time you got magnums around. And Lara Croft, I don't know what happened between the first game and the second game, because out of nowhere, she just gives zero fucks. Like, she's just walking in, taking artifacts that she wants, which is cool. You do you, boo. You do you. But she just, like, wrecks some people's days. And it was just such a fun game to play as a kid, because there was just a lot of running and gunning, as well as a lot of platforming. Like, these games still incorporate a lot of puzzles. And I mean a lot of puzzles, like a lot of box puzzles, from what I remember correctly. And while it's not the best Tomb Raider game, because I definitely think the reboot of the franchise is fantastic, I think it definitely stands out because that was when they introduced the being able to use the joysticks. So Laura's movement was a lot more fluid, which is nice. And we had it on both PlayStation and PC, and I do believe the first time I really got into it was through those demo discs through Pizza Hut, because that's how I played games as a kid, was through the Pizza Hut demo box, was because of those discs. But I played it on PC and on console. I have to say, my little hands, I preferred it on console because it just made sense in my stupid lady lizard brain. I played it on console just because it made sense. But the PC version was still a lot of fun. I remember playing in a lot in her mansion. So the improved level design helped a lot too. Like, it was a lot more linear, and it definitely gave you that guide. You didn't get lost as quickly as what you did in the first game. The first game I remember getting lost, and I still do as an adult when I go back and revisit these games on my PlayStation 1 or my PlayStation 3 because it's backwards compatible. I got lost a lot. Like, I pretty much always need a walkthrough. Another cool thing that the Tomb Raider 2 series, the Tomb Raider 2 game did really well in the series is letting you find, like, the different dragons and the levels, and you always got, like, health pack upgrades or ammo upgrades, or you found different weapons, and you always knew there was always going to be 3 of those dragons. You always knew it. So as soon as you found all 3 of them, you knew you had explored all of the tombs there was to find. So I thought that was a really cool thing that they did to enhance the life of these games. Don't get me wrong, there is PS1 jank. There is some PS1 jank galore in these games. But, you know, that's going to be said about any PlayStation 1 game, but the Tomb Raider series was pretty bad about it. Especially because, like, some of the jumping mechanics I remember getting really, really frustrated at, like when you're in the opera house and there's those stupid-ass, big-ass fucking fans, and if you jump too close to them, they get you, and I'm going off on a tangent, but yes, the jumping mechanics, while smooth for its day, killed me. A lot. So, but basically, it's like Lara Croft is just a rich lady that goes after what she wants, and she's a badass chick that just gets in everybody's way, the bad guys' way, even though they are bad guys, because I'm pretty sure they're trying to kill everybody. So, but the second one really takes place in, so the opening cutscene kind of quick. I'm not going to give you the whole story, but you're looking for an ancient dagger from ancient China, and Laura wants it, so she goes after it. Well, it turns out this other group wants it, and she gets it, and then they get it back. And it's just a whole tit for tat kind of thing, but Laura goes in guns a-blazing into these Venice mobsters' house, just like, you don't take from me. Not today, Satan. So yes, Tomb Raider 2 came in at number 7 for me. That's going to bring us down to, well, if we can all count, unlike me, Number 6. And yes, I'm drinking. What are you gonna do? Stop me? I'm just kidding, you're gonna join me. So, number 6. Number 6. Number 6 is Resident Evil 2. So, like many others, this was my first game into the franchise, and I was probably playing it well after it came out, a few years. My dad, oh, I love that man. But there was a time in yonder years where, in yesteryear, there was a time where we could rent video games. So we went to our local Blockbuster, and we rented this game. And I think I had a friend over, or maybe it was just me, maybe I saw the cover and I was like, oh, zombies. So this was my first introduction into zombies, and I was probably sitting at like 9 or 10. I want to say it was 10. I want to say it was like in 3rd or 4th grade. I played this game, and it scared the living fuck out of me. Just because out of nowhere, you're being stalked. Because like the first half of the game, you're like, yeah, puzzles, zombies. They got some good jump scares. They really did. I mean, even with the remake, which if you haven't played the remake, I highly suggest it. They did such a wonderful job with it. It's still one of my favorite Resident Evils, except 7. 7 is fantastic, but Resident Evil 2 gets me every time. And I think it's just because as soon as you trigger that stalking effect, like, I remember thinking as a kid, like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, and it would just, I didn't sleep for days. Like, I remember being traumatized, but I couldn't tell my dad why I was scared, because he'd get mad that I asked him to rent a game, because ratings weren't really talked about back then, especially in my household. Like, sure, my dad worked all the time, and he loves his kids, and he wanted us to be happy, and so he let me rent this game. Traumatized me. That and Code Veronica, but that's not on the list. But Leon and Claire are just a blast to play. I think kind of taking that different perspective, like giving you a chance to run through the game yet again, was just so much fun, and it gave that replay value. And I didn't actually beat the game on the PlayStation 1 until I was an adult, because as a kid, I did not have a Game Shark. And I was absolutely terrified, because I get to that point where I'd start triggering the tyrant, and he would stalk me, and I would like run into him, and I would squeal like a child, like how you would manage 10-year-old Sam would squeal. And I would get scared, and I'd drop the controller, and I'd run, and I'd hide in my bedroom. And so I never beat the game until I was an adult, but I remember playing it, and I had a lot of fun. And horror games to me always tend to have the better stories, especially because in the Resident Evil world, it's so well painted. Even in 2, if you've never jumped into the series, you kind of get an idea that what Raccoon City is, why Leon's in there, why Claire's there, what's going, like, you don't know fully what's going on with Umbrella Corporation, but it gives you such a nice story along the way that you can really appreciate the franchise as a whole, because you don't ever feel like WTF is going on. And I mean, it's such a fast-paced game, and with unique puzzles, and the puzzles can still stump you. And I remember grabbing my little pad of paper and trying to figure out like the button puzzles, and there's just something to be said about that kind of interaction that you have with the game. And we're gonna go down to number 5, staying along the same horror vein, is Parasite Eve. And my husband has the game. Parasite Eve, guys. So this game, I don't remember how I played it. Popped in the PlayStation, and I was like, ooh, girl, because, you know, we all want to play games that we can relate to. I can't relate to a boy, unfortunately. But Parasite Eve was within the same vein as like that Tomb Raider, like just badass cop. Aya is her name. I had to write it down because I wasn't sure how to pronounce it. But you play as a cop, Aya. She goes to an opera house on Christmas Eve. Melissa, the diva, falls ill, and it turns into this terrible monster, and Aya is immune to the monster's ability. I just thought that this game was so much fun, and I went back and I played it as an adult too. And there's just something to be said about being able to go back to these classics and enjoy them just as much as you did back then. And this game, Square Enix did such a good job because it still holds the RPG mechanic of it, and it's a short game, only about 12 hours. So, and nowadays that's a really short game, even comparatively to the Final Fantasy VII game, which is 40 plus hours. 12 hours is not long for an RPG, especially by Square Enix. And they really brought in a different type of combat. So it was real-time combat with a active time bar. So like, kind of like that Final Fantasy VII, you have to wait for the bar to fill and then you can do your thing. But the interaction with it, with Parasite Eve, was really cool because it would put a marker like how far your weapon could shoot, like your spells that you could do in a sense. So like being able to use the mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell. Anybody that watched Bill Nye the Science Guy, it was a unique mechanic back in the day, and it's still widely used today, which goes to say something about Square Enix setting a standard, if I do say so myself. And then, of course, the music. Something to be said for it. It's the same director that wrote the script for Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. So, and I'm a sucker for good music in video games and these ones with such limited dialogue options, and most of the time these other games didn't have dialogue, music really spoke for the characters, and it takes a lot to do that. And this director did such an amazing job of building the world around building the score around the world. So I thought that was a really fun mechanic. And then of course the ominous ending made you yearning for 2 because I'm not going to spoil anything, but the ending, A+, Square Enix, A+. It still kind of gets me to this day. It makes you want to go straight into number 2, but then back then we had to wait. We didn't have to wait as long, we only had to wait like a year or so, but we still had to wait. Memorable final bosses. Oh my god, I have drank too much and that's fine. Oh, I'm drinking whiskey in case you can't tell. And the Ninja Turtles cup with my coochie cup. Coochie copy. We'll call it my coochie. My cooch is out. Can't say that on camera? Okay. But yes, and then the New Game Plus being able to pick up exactly where you left off starting beginning of the game with the same weapons you left off was not a super common thing back then to my knowledge. And correct me if I'm wrong. I've been wrong before, just don't tell anybody. And then going back and opening up the Chrysler building with the different level maps and being able to experience a game in a whole new way with those new elements was just a really cool experience for me. And so I really actually hope we get a remake of Parasite Eve, because I think it would be absolutely fucking amazing on new gen consoles. So that knocks it out for the next section of my list. If you guys have played any of these games, or if you love any of these games, let me know in the comment. Thanks for watching. If any of these were on your list of your top 10 favorite PS1 games, or if these were games that you have played, please let us know in the comments. We'd love to chat about it with you guys. All right, thanks for being weird with me.